المدير العام لنادي الإمارات للسيارات والسياحة. Good morning, Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen. It's a privilege for me to address you this morning on behalf of my President, Mohammed bin Salem, who unfortunately cannot be here with us today. Mohammed is travelling. He'll be with us here at this conference tomorrow. And he sends his warm regards to you all and wishes you all a very good day today. We are the Automobile and Touring Club of the UAE. We are affiliated to the FIA, the governing body of sport and mobility in the world. We're also affiliated to the IRU, the International Road Union. And of course, two of my colleagues, both Jacob and Jelko, will make different presentations to you over the next few days to bring you up to speed on FIA mobility issues and the IRU progress that we're making for people and transport mobility in the future. The FIA Mobility is a little-known organisation. Everybody knows the FIA through its motorsport, through Formula One and so on. But little is known about the mobility section, which actually represents 167 clubs around the world to look after the motorists, to look after the mobility section of the motoring public. So here are we in UAE representing that body in the mobility section of FIA. And I suppose that brings us to where I come into this equation. I've been fortunate all my life that I grew up with this passion for the automobile, for the car, for mobility, for transportation, from the time I was a young boy. And in my life, I'm now 61 years of age, I've seen some transformation in the car. I've been involved from all angles. I actually started off, as Len would appreciate, as a car salesman when I was very young, but unfortunately I wasn't selling Toyotas then, I was selling Fords. But anyway, to cut a long story short, that grew into sport. I've been involved in sport all my life. I've been involved in the governance of sport now, and of course it's brought me into the mobility section as well. So I've had this passion for cars, for mobility, for transportation of people all through my life, and still have. However, in my life, in my long life, there hasn't been huge progress in cars. We can say, right, we've got electric cars now, with the dawn of electric cars, with the dawn of hybrid cars, which we can see outside here. But at the end of the day, the car is still the same vehicle. It's still powered mainly by the internal combustion engine, which was invented in 1876 by a gentleman called Nicholas Otto. And of course, he had two cohorts at that time, a gentleman called Mr. Daimler and a gentleman called Mr. Maybach, which are still around today. Or their brands are still around today, I'm sure they're long dead. But in that 140 years, we're still using this internal combustion engine. I'm sure many of us, including me, came here this morning in a single vehicle, driven by ourselves, and in a large car, probably 3 litres or more, and parked it outside here for the day, and we'll go back in that tonight. We have to change. There's a seismic change coming. It won't be another 140 years before this change comes. As we've seen in our previous presentations, the RTA, through the vision of His Highness Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid Al Maktoum, have an amazing goal, have amazing goals. And I'm so pleased to hear that in 3 years' time that we'll have driverless cars here in Dubai. And we need that. We need to be the innovators. We need to be the leaders. Our leader, Sheikh Mohammed, has promised that we will have 25% driverless cars here in Dubai by 2030. That's a big goal, that's a big task, but I think we're very up for it. And this is what this conference is all about for the next 2 days, how we achieve these goals, how we get on this train, and how we make this happen. And I think there's massive expertise in this room, huge amount of knowledge to get together, to make this conference well worthwhile, to make sure that this happens within that space of time. And it has to happen because last month in Ecuador, in Quito, there was a conference on a UN habitat conference. It happens every 20 years. There was 30,000 delegates at this conference from 169 different countries around the world. And at that conference, it came out about the new urban agenda was the theme for that conference. And the statistic was that at the moment 56% of us live in urban areas around the world. By 2050, 70% will live in urban areas. That doesn't mean that people will not have to be transported to different locations. On the contrary, the kilometre passenger statistic will increase by threefold. So we will have 3 times the demand to transport people at that time in 2050. We have to prepare for that. And that's why we are here for this weekend, to prepare for that. And I leave you with one last comment. Because of my motorsport career in Formula One or whatever, in fact, we have a very exciting Formula One Grand Prix in Abu Dhabi in 2 weeks' time. I'm sure there's still lots of tickets left. But last night in Brazil, it came down to the challenge that it will be settled. The title will be settled in Abu Dhabi. So we're in for an exciting time there. But I was in the company of 2 engineers, 2 Formula One engineers there last month. One was from Honda, one was from Renault. And the Honda engineer asked the Renault engineer, he said, "How old is your daughter now?" Just in general conversation. He said, "She's 5 years of age." He said, "Do you realize that your daughter, when she grows up, may never have to sit a driving test and may never be in possession of a driving license in the future?" Now that's a scary statistic because, of course, we will have autonomous vehicles. We will have different types of transport. So there we are. That's the goal we're aiming for here this weekend, or should I say these next 2 days. We have to find solutions to bring us into the next generation and not wait another 140 years to get rid of this internal combustion engine. So thank you so much. I'll hand you over to the next speaker now. All the best for the next 2 days.